All right, so I wanted to talk about this college football 25 game, and this isn't something that usually would go up on the main channel. Didn't know where to put it, so I'm putting it here on Q and Code because I haven't uploaded here in a minute because me and Code are on hiatus until the pod comes back in about a month or so. We're going to be gearing up pretty soon here, about the first or second week of training camp. So if you're wondering about Q and Code, that's when that's going to come back. But let's talk about college football, man, because I have been waiting for college football 25 to come out for like 10 years. I have here my original copy of NCAA 14. I got this over 10 years ago. Makes me feel old, but over 10 years ago, I got this game and I played the hell out of it. I played it pretty much throughout college. Used Team Builder, did Road to Glory a lot. Honestly, played a ton of exhibition games because I was in college. I was playing with my friends. So that's my experience with NCAA 14. I didn't really play a ton of Dynasty in NCAA 14. I did a lot of Road to Glory because I didn't have time to do all that Dynasty. I was in school when this game came out. So I have been somebody who's been anticipating this game for a long time. I had a lot of excitement. And what I will say, first and foremost, is there is not a single thing in this game that I'm disappointed by. I am having a great time with this game. I'm going to walk through what I feel about each element of the game. There are some complaints that I have that I hope can get addressed. There are some complaints that aren't going to get addressed this year, but I hope they can add in future year iterations because I think it would add a lot to what they've built. But this is a great base that they've built here. This honestly feels way more polished than a sports game in its first year. Because usually, like, whenever Madden jumps to like next gen, you lose a ton of stuff and it feels super stripped down. This feels polished. Like it's been a second or third iteration. It's really good. It's really good. And it makes you wonder how much further Madden could go if it weren't limited by its development cycle. And if it weren't limited by the NFL itself, which I'll get into when I talk about Dynasty. I mean, why I think just college football is a better video game to make than a video game about the NFL. But the gameplay, right? A lot of people want to talk about the gameplay. To me, it feels like a mix of NCAA 14 and current Madden, right? Like NCAA 14, it's the same speed as that, but you don't feel as weightless as you did in NCAA 14. Like when you cut, you feel like you have the feet there. It's pretty good gameplay. Now, I'll preference this by saying I'm not one that has a big problem with how Madden plays. I think it could be better. A little bit more fun. Sometimes it's a little stiff. Sometimes the passing is a little bit too difficult, but it's also the NFL, and passing the football in the NFL is just difficult. So I don't really have that many complaints about Madden's gameplay. So I liked how college football 25 plays. If you want something that's going to be like how the old 2K games used to play, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was never a fan of how those games played. I thought they looked great, but I never thought that they played as great as everybody else did. And maybe it's just a gameplay preference, right? But I didn't like the tap to sprint and how the player movement was. I felt like it was more stiff than Madden at the time. I wasn't a big fan of the 2K gameplay. I was always a fan of the presentation that the 2K games offered. And the gameplay, it's not going to feel like 2K football. It's going to feel like EA Sports football because it's a football game made by EA Sports. It's not going to feel completely different from Madden. It's going to have some similarities, obviously. But it is different enough that it feels like a college football game. Like, that's what I'll say. It feels like a college football game. And a lot of that is really because of the presentation, because the presentation on this game is out of this world. It's out of this world. It's some of the best presentation in any video game. It's super polished. There are over like 100 stadiums in this game because they have a stadium for every FBS team. And every stadium is rendered in such incredible fidelity with such incredible accuracy and attention to detail. I'm doing a dynasty with Georgia State, which means I play a lot of Sun Belt games, and I've been to a lot of the stadiums in the Sun Belt. I've been to I moved Jackson State into the Sun Belt, but I've been to Jacksonville State, my bad, not Jackson State, Jacksonville State Stadium. I've been to Georgia State's stadium. I played the Georgia Tech, like every stadium that I've been to in real life that I've played in this video game. I go there, I'm like, damn, like the accuracy is just crazy. In Georgia State Stadium, they have like accurate placements of where the concessions are, which is nuts. They have like little details on the sideline. At Georgia Southern Stadium, they have like this GS in the middle of the field. It's a really small detail, but it's an incredible detail to have at a school as small as Georgia Southern. I mean, this was the FCS school when NCAA 14 came out. And it's just rendered in such incredible fidelity. I think JMU Stadium is just, no stadium looks funky in this game. Every stadium looks pretty damn good, if not great. Like I would even say the level of detail is something on every stadium in this game. Over 100 stadiums in this game, the level of detail in every single one of those 100 stadiums kind of blows what Madden does out the water. Like there's a lot of detail in Madden, and I'm not saying Madden like doesn't do a good job with this. I think they do a solid job of recreating the stadiums that are in the game. But like what Madden doesn't do great is the small details. Right? Like that's one thing where Madden presentation wise always falls short. They don't have this attention to detail. And NCAA college football 25, my bad, has the small details in just everything. Like for the Browns on Madden, when it's third down, you don't get Hell's Bell. You don't even get the Doom Bell that they play. I don't know if they play that on third down anymore at the stadium. So that might not be a thing anymore. I know they've tried to change it the last few years. But regardless, on third down in Cleveland Brown Stadium, you will always hear what sounds like somebody smacking aluminum foil in a fence together, right? It's like this. If you go watch like the highlights of the Browns and Jets game, you'll always hear that sound going off. And that's just fans smacking the fence at the top of the stadium or smacking like whatever banister is there or smacking their seat. That's what we do in Cleveland. It's like a specific sound for Cleveland. That's not in Madden. I have no hope that ever being in Madden. But like if that were happening at Bowling Green, they would have that in the game, dog. Like that's the level of detail that they have paid attention to in this game, where something like the smallest of schools have the highest attention of detail to them. Like it's almost worth the price of paying this game to buy the game just to go into replay mode and just look at the shit that they built in this game. It is the presentation, I mean, like from the stadium quality standpoint, from the audio standpoint, the audio that you hear in the game, it scales to how big the stadium is. You get the right songs playing, like just small things, super small. It feels like Saturday when you're playing this game. It's the small things. Like, I don't know the name of this arrangement, but a lot of teams play it when it's third down and it's this da 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 da. It sounds like that, and that's in the game. That's in the game. And teams have it, and they have first down noise. Georgia State has like a first down little anthem they play, and then a tiger roar that they play, or panther roar that they have. It's in the game for Georgia State. It's like 40 people that go to Georgia State games. Apparently, whoever was on the development team was there because they got all of this stuff in there. It's great. The attention to detail in the stadiums, the atmosphere, it's everything they hyped it up to be. There is no complaints on that front. When you go from playing the Sunbelt schools and the Sunbelt road games, and then you play like Georgia in Georgia, oh, you feel the difference. Like you feel the difference in how that sound comes out. And you like There were several times where I was on the road and I was like kind of like rattled because of everything going on. Like it was just so much. Some of the best presentation you'll see in any video game. Point blank, period. They have like these custom conference patches. Like again, the small details are just perfect. They have these small conference patches, which is really cool. So when you realign teams, let's say like I put Boise State in the Pac-12. Instead of every time you play Boise State, you having to ignore the fact that they have a Mountain West patch on their stadium. No, that patch switches to a Pac-12's patch, and the patch on their jersey switches to a Pac-12 jersey, which adds some like fun because like if you're playing a dynasty like I am with Georgia State right now, and you take Georgia State from a Sun Belt team to a ACC team to compete with like Georgia Tech, you get those logos on your field and on your jersey. It's a small detail, but it's everything to me. Like this is the shit that keeps me going in dynasty mode. They have bowl patches in there. So like if you get to the Rose Bowl, you get that big old Rose Bowl patch on your jersey, and that just makes it super cool. They have the college football playoff patch with like the year of the college football playoff on it. I got to 2027 right now, and it says 2027 on there. I don't know what happens once you get to like 2040 or something like that, but the patch is there. The presentation is there. Like nothing feels half-assed. I want to make that nothing feels half-assed, especially when it comes to Dynasty, especially when it comes to presentation. Like they said, every team is somebody's favorite team. They took that shit seriously. Nothing feels half-assed on the presentation. Nothing feels rushed. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's pretty much perfect. The audio, the commentary is pretty good. It's as good as video game commentary can get. They got 2 commentary teams. The presentation is as close to perfect as you can get. I know some people are complaining because like there's no ESPN score bug. Dog, who gives a fuck about any of that? Like I honestly don't want the ESPN score bug in the game because I think it's a really ugly score bug. It changes how you can do presentation. Like I get ESPN 2K5 was this moment, and it was a great game and a great moment for sports gamers at that time. But we can't keep trying to replicate it. And I think there's some people who just want that game to come back in 2023 in every way that it was. And that's not going to be college football 25. College football 25 is an excellent college football game. It's not a excellent game for people who love 2K football. It's a excellent college football game. You have to accept that, right? But I don't want the ESPN. I think the ESPN scorebugs are ugly. And also, like when it comes to immersion, for me, it's just easier to live with whatever scorebug, the generic one that EA puts up there. Because if you do have an ESPN one, then I'm going to want a CBS one. Then I'm going to want a NBC one. Then I'm going to want a ESPN but on ABC one, and if you have the ESPN one, you gotta have the score ticker because that's a huge part of the presentation, and it just becomes like so much energy put into like something that's so insignificant when you could just put a generic bug there. So I know some people wanted like the full-on ESPN presentation like they did in NCAA 14 to a point. No, it's not that, but I'm honestly fine with it because the presentation in this game is just incredible. And at no point do you feel like you're not immersed when you're in this game. I'm being honest with you. So the presentation, I could go on for like another hour talking about it. It's amazing. Let's talk about Dynasty, because that's where I've been spending most of my time. And while playing Dynasty, I start to realize why a college football game, if done well, will always be better than an NFL game, even if that NFL game is done well. And I'm somebody who watches more NFL than college football. I cover the NFL. But because a video game is based on NFL, it's going to be limited. It's going to be limited by what the NFL allows you to put in the game, sure. But it's just also going to be limited because the NFL itself as a league is well balanced. It doesn't take much to take the worst team in the game and get them to be the best team in the game. It could take a season. if you're a good player. It could take 2 if you need to like sign free agents. But it doesn't take much at all in the NFL to go from worst to first, which means the grind in a franchise mode is just so limited, right? There's only so much you can achieve in a NFL franchise mode. And it doesn't matter what you think about the game, like who makes it, if it's EA or if it's not, there's just only so much you can do there with a franchise mode based on pro football, because the whole point of pro football is parity. And parity makes a fun league to watch, but it does not make a fun video game to play. The reason why Dynasty is just a more superior mode than franchise mode inherently is because college football is insanely imbalanced. Like the difference between the worst team in the game and the best team in the game is immense. It will take you 3 seasons to even get close to closing that gap. It probably takes 10 to close the gap completely. Like if you want to make Kennesaw State a competitor to Ohio State, that's going to take like 7 seasons minimum. And you see why that makes the grind a lot different, right? With Madden, if you want to take the Arizona Cardinals and make them a Super Bowl champion, if you're good with your user, you can do that in 1 year. It's not a big grind. You don't need to unlock all the shit in franchise mode because it's the NFL, dog. It's not imbalanced. But with college football at 25, you're playing in the NCAA, you're playing college football, which means that you're playing in this very unbalanced landscape that college football offers. And that gives you different ways to scale difficulty, right? Like you don't have to play on Heisman to have a satisfying experience. I learned that very early. I played on varsity. Like I ain't about to be throwing my controller because I'm throwing too many interceptions. I ain't doing that. But you can still scale difficulty because if you are on varsity, but you play with a bad school, you still got to deal with all the stuff that goes on with having a bad school, like not being able to recruit the best players, not being able to keep your best players, right? I lost my quarterback to the transfer portal my first year. Really set my team back. Made me have to focus on recruiting, right? So let me talk about that experience first. And this is an experience unique to a dynasty mode on college football. So my first year at Georgia State, I lost my quarterback to the transfer portal. That quarterback leaves in the portal. I have to start whoever's left on the roster the next year. And I stink that next year. Like I start out 0-4. The team's not good. I don't like the quarterbacks on the roster. I can't play with them. I didn't recruit any quarterbacks because I thought I had a quarterback. So I was in a bad spot. So I spent most of that year focusing on recruiting more than playing because the season was pretty much shot. And I really wanted to hone in and get me a quarterback that was at least a 3-star that had some speed because I wanted to user somebody with some good speed. Eventually, I found a player who had 97 speed, was a 3-star quarterback. I worked all the angles to recruit that player. Got that player, was so happy to get that player to commit to me, get him on campus, find out that this guy has a superstar development trait, which means that he's going to add XP faster, start him as a freshman, and that completely changes the program at Georgia State. That's not something that you can even make happen or possible on Madden. Like maybe you could do it with a draft pick, but it's a draft pick. It's just not the same thing as like recruiting this random 3-star out of like 700 options. Right? Like even if you draft a quarterback and develop that quarterback in Madden, if you get a quarterback that's good enough their rookie year, you can win the championship their first year. And then the grind's done. And that quarterback can be like a 99 overall because it's the NFL. There's only but so much growth you could do when you're making an NFL game versus college football. There's just more opportunities for more gameplay elements there. I'm having a great time with Dynasty. I played a ton. I love the recruiting elements of it. I love the RPG elements of it, the leveling up to add different skill boosts. The tree is pretty deep. When it comes to what you can add, like I've been playing with 3-4 seasons right now, and I still haven't unlocked like the second tier upgrades that you can get. So there's a ton to unlock, and you're not going to unlock all of it. And there's going to be multiple different ways to play, and you can kind of do that and switch around and do different Dynasty builds. There's a ton to do here with Dynasty. If they didn't make another game for 10 years, it'd be enough here to serve you for another 10 years, to be honest. But also, you know, when you naturally compare this game to Madden, I think that's fair when it comes to the presentation. Madden certainly could step their game up with presentation. But when it comes to like comparing franchise to Dynasty, that's why I'm like, I think it's an unfair comp, because I don't think people consider enough how limited franchise mode is, because it's NFL franchise mode. There's just not that much of a grind that exists there in the NFL. You can turn a team around in 2 years in real life in the NFL. What you're trying to do in Dynasty, turn a 1-star to a 5-star program? This shit takes years, decades. You know, it's just a different grind that you get with college football that you just can't get with any other style of game. Let's talk about Team Builder. Now, I did the Team Builder beta when it first came out. The Team Builder is pretty good. It's really good. I think the potential is insane with the Team Builder, but it does need to be refined. Like, it definitely feels like a beta. It's buggy, the tool. It does not have certain tools that you would expect it to have. It does not have as many options as you would expect it to have. But what is there is impressive. Like, I'm going to try to remember to put on screen my YSU, because I went to Youngstown State University. I made them in Team Builder. And the level of detail I could get with this is insane. I was able to add like the stuff on the shoulder. I was able to add like helmet numbers in the back. Like, the level of customization you can get with this Team Builder tool is insanely powerful. If they clean up a few things, and I'll mention those few things right now in my complaints. It needs a text tool. Like, I think Team Builder needs a text tool. You can't put text on the end zone. You have to import a file where you have text as an image. You can't just type it in there. I think that's silly. I understand they're doing that so that maybe the moderation tools aren't there to where they can't stop people from putting profanity there yet. So because that moderation is not available yet, and it will probably be available, they're withholding stuff like the text tool is what I'm assuming. And eventually that would be there, but it needs it. You can definitely, it could use a text tool. I think it would save a lot of people a lot of images. You only get to upload like 10 images. So I think this would save a lot of people those image slots, and people would be able to go even further than what I was able to do with my YSU Team Builder, because you wouldn't have to be limited to just 10 images, and some of those images have to be like your end zone fonts and have to be like your jersey fonts across the middle. So I think that the text tool, most certainly something that they can add. They need more turf patterns. Like, I want a natural grass, well, not a natural grass, a natural grass looking turf that has like the striped, you know, like super green to kind of green to super green to kind of green. They don't have that in Team Builder. They also don't have generic stadiums. This bugs some people more than others. It doesn't really bug me as much because there are like 100 stadiums in this game already. So like, you can find one. I know people want one without the branding of another team, but I find that stuff to be super subtle and easy to ignore in a lot of cases. And I don't know. It doesn't bug me that there's no generic stadiums, but it would be cool if they could add some generic stadiums. But I'm gonna be honest with you, they've done so much like, with the stadiums. It's hard for me to ask for more and feel good about it. But that is something that they could add with Team Builder. What are my other complaints with Team Builder? Oh, I would love to make helmet stickers. You can't do that. I think that's something that is within the realm of possible for them. But let me make a helmet sticker. Let me upload an image that's the helmet sticker, and you can do that. Maybe that's in Team Builder version 2 for 2026, but that would be cool, right? Because you can't have helmet stickers with Team Builder teams yet, and there's a lot of teams that are in the FCS that wear helmet stickers, or maybe you want to recreate a team that's already in the game that has helmet stickers or whatever it is. Again, the ability, like the customization levels you can get to with this tool, even in its raw form, is insane. Like, I can't wait for people to really master this tool, because I think there are going to be people who put out like kits and stuff out there for you to like build things around. But man, it's the Team Builder tool. It feels like next gen Team Builder. It doesn't feel like they just phoned in Team Builder. Like, it feels like they really, really gave a fuck about Team Builder. Now needs to be more polished. Definitely feels like a beta. And it probably will feel like a beta until Madden comes out, because I know Team Builder's launching with Madden. So that's one thing. But I'm glad that we have access to it with College Football 25 already. They need way more jersey patterns too in the game. Like, they're like 4 jersey patterns, maybe. I think 1 really, in the game. And that way you can add like the LSU stripes on the shoulders, which is cool. But like, there's no way to add like an under the arm stripe unless you put a custom image in there yourself. And again, more ways that you can save people from having to use custom images for certain things like this, where it's completely avoidable, the better. And the further people can go with the level of detail on some of these custom Team Builder things. And I've already seen people go to an impressive amount of custom detail with these. It's just, you can go even further if you just had a couple of extra tools available in the Team Builder thing that I think they can patch in before Madden comes out, or after Madden comes out, whenever they choose to do that. Another thing that I would love if they can make a thing in Team Builder, and this is probably not going to happen this year, but maybe next year, is if you can add alternate uniforms, helmets with the Team Builder tool to existing schools. The reason I want to do this, I play as Georgia State in my Dynasty, and Georgia State has 2 uniform options, and that gets pretty old pretty fast when you're doing a Dynasty. And I would love to add to the immersion that I have for Georgia State by doing a revamp, right? The team's moving to the ACC this year in my Dynasty. So in that, I want to do a revamp and release some new jerseys and partner with Nike or whatever it is. And I would love if I could use Team Builder for that, to release some new jerseys, maybe add a secondary logo, right? Like, there's going to be limitations when you're working with IPs that are actually licensed in the game. I understand that, but I would love if I could just, make some new jerseys, add some alternates to an already existing team instead of having to replace them, right? That would be pretty cool if I could do that, but you can't do that right now. Other complaints that I have about the game. These are small complaints about Dynasty, and I'll get into my bigger suggestions for Dynasty. So my small complaints, I can't edit my audibles in Dynasty. I don't know if this is something that anybody else is going through, but I haven't been able to edit my audibles. Like, even if I go through the main menu, edit the audibles in my playbook in the practice screen, it doesn't show up in Dynasty. Or if I do it in Dynasty, practice in Dynasty, change my audibles in the Dynasty practice mode, I come back, start a game, my audibles aren't there. I think it's a bug. So I can't edit my audibles in Dynasty. Real pain in the ass. Please do something about that, because I just end up not having audibles anymore. Some bugs have popped up. I saw like a team that I moved to the Pac-12 still had their Mountain West logo. I have to believe that's a bug, because everything else switches over. And I was getting a lot of like random roughing the punter penalties in my Dynasty for like a couple of games. Seems like a bug there too. So there's some bugs there I think can get fixed. My overall suggestions for what year 2 of Dynasty mode could look like. I think individual player progression could be more hands-on in Dynasty. I prefer how it works in Madden, where you get like a screen of, hey, this player has this many points and you can upgrade this thing, that thing, that thing about this player. In Dynasty, it just kind of happens in the background and you're not really aware of it until like the off season, or unless you're like constantly checking the roster screen. There's a lot of things like that when it comes to player development and management that kind of happen in the background or are easy to miss, like changing positions. There are players that you can get like a +5 overall boost in this game by switching positions, but you got to go through like every single one of them on a specific week in the off season to switch their position, and then you get that boost. It just seems like it could be done in a little bit of a better way and more intentional, because it doesn't feel super intentional right now. Also, I would love if you could do something with redshirt players, like, do some team drills with redshirt players or some team practice with them to get them to progress during the season, so that you can have like basically individual player progression within players in your program. In Dynasty mode, I wish you could have more, not control, but more of a hands-on approach about how those guys progress, or if those guys progress. Like, I can have a 300-yard game with the quarterback and not know if that up there overall until I look at the screen at the end of the year. And I think that it should be a little bit more hands-on. You should know if a player is getting better. You should know if a player wants to change position, right? Like, there should be something in there where a player notifies you, hey, I think I should be playing tight end. I think I should be doing kickoff. And you can evaluate that, right? Like, there's some of this stuff does actually exist in Madden, and I wish it was brought over in a more college football-y way to this game. So it's definitely possible, right? Like, they have players let you know if they're happy or not. I think that would be another thing that would be useful, if you can have a player unhappiness meter. Right now, there's no penalty for redshirting a 5-star recruit that you brought into the school and told you was going to play right away, right? Like, there's not really much of an unhappiness meter. Like, there's a transfer portal thing in there, but it doesn't come up as much as you would think it would. I wish there was like a meter where you can better play that meta game of, hey, is this guy happy here or not? Is he liking the plays that I'm using him in, or the amount of plays? Like, managing that, I think it can get even deeper than it is right now. Again, it's a first game. This is where you can kind of tell where there's some things, some advanced elements that you wish you could change or monitor a little bit more, but I wish that could be in there. I wish you could export individual players to Road to Glory or Madden. Like, you'll have these guys that you recruit, and they're not real players in the game. They're not licensed, that you would like to say, hey, I want to do a Road to Glory with this recruit that I got in the game, and export them, or export this player to Madden so I can continue their career in franchise mode, or add them to a draft class in franchise mode and potentially try to draft the dude that I was starring with in college with to play pro football or play against him. Think that would be cool. Again, I understand the limitations with licensed players. You can't just export everybody to Madden, but you should have some option to export players who aren't licensed in the game, and more customization to players who aren't licensed. Like, you can't change guys' jersey numbers. It doesn't bug me that much, but I could see where it can become annoying if you have like a quarterback and a running back that both wear 4 and you can't do shit about it. It would really break immersion. And as much as they did for level of detail in this game, that would really suck to be a thing that brought you out of it. So I think that would be cool. Did I talk about Road to Glory? I didn't really play much Road to Glory, to be honest. Like, I did like 8 weeks of it and realized I just don't like superstar modes in video games anymore. Because the whole time I was doing Road to Glory, I was having fun, but I was like, man, I would have more fun if I could recruit. So I didn't play much Road to Glory. I imagine it's fun. If you play like as a defensive player or as a quarterback. I did do some Road to Glory as a running back, and that was not that much fun. So I would not recommend being a running back. I would recommend being a quarterback or a defensive player, because it seems like the people who make those choices are having a lot more fun. So here's another thing that I wish they had in Dynasty mode, especially. I wish you could, with your points that you earn in Dynasty mode, unlock or buy certain traditions and animations that they have on the sideline. Like if I get 700 points, I can get a throne on my sideline. That would be my turnover throne, right? I want to add these traditions, and you can even have it add to the metagame where like the more traditions you unlock, the more things unique to playing with your team that you're controlling in Dynasty, the higher your school tradition grade goes up, right? Like you should be able to add traditions once you have enough clout as a coach, right? If I want to have a specific type of walkout animation for the team that I'm controlling, I should be able to unlock that, or I should be able to unlock some sideline animations or some specific like chants that the crowd does, right? You should be able to buy those things and add those, not buy them with actual money, buy them with like points in the game that you unlock through Dynasty, and add them to what your program does. I think that would add another level of immersion, right? You want stadium customization. Obviously, that would be really cool if you can also take your school and like build a bigger stadium so you feel like you fit in with other Big Ten schools that you move your team to. All of that stuff would be really good. And I think feasible for them to do in next year's game. But yeah, that's my review of College Football 25. If you were wondering how I felt about the game, if you've been following me on Twitter, that's how I felt. I'm having a great time. If you like football games, if you don't mind how Madden plays on a base level, and it's more about how Madden feels as a game and the presentation of it is your issue, you're going to love this game. I think most people will love this game. I think there are going to be some 2K diehards who don't like this game, but who cares? If you're somebody who has enjoyed playing a EA Sports football game at any point in your life, you're probably going to enjoy this game. If you like RPGs and you like football, boy, is this the game for you. Because honestly, if you are just like an RPG head and you don't even care about playing a football, dog, you can go through and have a satisfying experience just like recruiting, simming, playing coach mode. I saw somebody do that on like Kofi from SB Nation's doing that. So there's a ton of ways to play this game, dog. There's a ton of ways to scale the difficulty. Don't think that to get a difficult experience, you have to play on the highest difficulty. You can raise your difficulty level without raising the difficulty level by playing with a 1-star school. For me, it took me 3 seasons to get a 5-star recruit to come to Georgia State. That is a difficulty level in itself. You know what I mean? Like, don't just limit yourself to the difficulty options that they offer you at the beginning of the game. Know that the school you pick, that's going to change how difficult the grind is. The conference you're in, that's going to change how difficult the grind is. Like, those are the things that you can measure with difficulty, and you can scale these things up. So like for me, I'm going to be a 3-star team at Georgia State. So maybe instead of playing on varsity, I'm going to play on Heisman or go up to All-American or something like that, right? Like there's a lot of different ways you could play it. There's sliders in the game, all of that. And I would use those things to your advantage to get the experience as satisfying to you. But man, it's back. If you wanted if you loved this game, if you were a fan of this, if you played this, you will love College Football 25. It's everything this was and then some. Especially from a presentation aspect. I don't know, maybe some things are missing from Dynasty mode from NCAA 14 that they don't have in College Football 25. But honestly, enough's there that if you want to have a good time, you will have a good time. Now, if you go in here, you want to have a bad time, if you just don't want to believe EA can make a good game, which a lot of people are very jaded for very good reasons on EA, then yeah, you're not going to enjoy yourself, but you're kind of doing it to yourself at that point. If you like this, you'll like College Football 25. It's a great game. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.